What's up, YouTube family? All right, I'm taking a little swig of water with those electrolytes. All right, so this video I'm gonna talk about why I don't listen to blue pill. Last video I talked about the red pill, and I tried to make it very clear that I wasn't trying to be mean to red pillers, but it might have came off that way. So I'm gonna say it again in this video. My intention isn't to be mean to blue pillars. It's not my intention. I'm just going to tell you why I don't listen to the blue pill. Now, fundamentally, I would have to mention that people that adhere to the blue pill don't know it, because the blue pill is just the opposite of the red pill. People that believe in the blue pill don't actually call it the blue pill, but they do have some sort of ideology of some sort, and I'm going to go into why I don't listen to them and why I think that the blue pill is killing your gains. You see, the blue pill isn't necessarily worse or better than the red pill. But the problem is that the blue pill is very woman-centric and also LGBTQ-centric, which isn't bad. That's not a bad thing. But if you're a straight man, they don't actually care about you that much. Recently, they started showing interest in straight men again, but only because they wanted to win us over into their ideology so that their political gurus can gain power. And obviously that is lame. Now the thing is this. These blue pillars will tell you things like, just be yourself and you'll find a good woman. That ain't true. That's not true. And that might sound like something a red pillar would say, but no. But I'm not a red pillar at all. But the reality is that the blue pill people sort of live in a fantasy land when it comes to dating. And when it comes to men's issues, they are completely silent. Like, they do not care about men's issues at all, unless you're gay or a trans man. Which is good to care about gay men's issues and trans men's issues. But if you're a straight man, you're, tossed to the curb. And what happens is, even when they try to be inclusive to men, they give the worst advice. And the red pillars are kind of in different brackets of types of thought. I'm not the red pillars. The blue pillars are, I don't know which one I said. The blue pillars are in like these different brackets of trains of thought. There are blue pillars that will tell you to be yourself and, eventually you'll find somebody. But ultimately, being yourself doesn't get you a woman. You need to be self-sufficient. You need to be able to take care of yourself, like as in your hygiene, your health, your fitness. You need to be able to make at least enough money. Like, this idea that you need to be 100,000-aire or a millionaire to have a woman, that's not true. There's tons of women that get with regular guys that make $50K a year. That's not true. But this idea that as a 30-something-year-old man making 24K a year, you're just magically gonna find a girl because you were yourself and you was your true self, is a fantasy. It's not true. And then what happens is, another thing that blue pill people do is they like to shift the burden from a lot of topic when talking about a lot of topics. They like to shift the burden from other groups of people to men. So if a woman, I'm not going to go into details because I don't want to get my channel deleted, but hopefully you'll understand what I'm saying. If a woman has something happen to her and a man was involved, the man is immediately blamed, which is, if it's actually the man's fault, is perfectly justified. But then they completely infantilize the woman by pretending like she had no agency whatsoever. And this is ultimately bad both for men and women. Because if a woman thinks that these things just happen and there's nothing I can do about it because men are pig and that's it, then won't develop the skills to protect themselves. Because they assume that just by going outside something can happen. So it doesn't matter if I'm, sleeping with multiple men a week. Eventually a man is going to attack me no matter what. And, I'm not against, sleep with how many people you want to sleep with, but you need to be smart about it. You obviously have to be safe, actually doing the deed. You don't get any STDs or whatever it's called now. But also, you shouldn't be going to strange places with strange men, doing strange substances, then relying completely and solely on that man's whims. And if that man decides to do something bad, you have no option. You see, when you see that's, oh wait, it's a strange man that I don't really know, and I'm going to a strange place that I've never been to, and I'm not telling anybody that I'm going with him, and we're going to be drinking and doing drugs, and you start adding up all of these red flags, and you still go, and then something happens, and of course if something happens that's wrong and it's the man's fault, it is the man's fault, but you can't tell the woman that she did nothing absolutely wrong. There was a lot of red flags, and she chose to go anyways. And ultimately, the man is responsible. But if you don't teach the woman those were red flags that you should have listened to, then next time, she's not going to listen to the red flags again. And the thing will happen again. And the blue pillars tend to remove women's agency and lead them to believe that they're completely at men's whim. If a man decides to do something, then that's it. He's going to do it and it's over. And this is just terrible advice. So ultimately, the reason I don't listen to blue pillars is because they give terrible advice both to women and men. And when it comes specifically to straight men, they couldn't care less about your struggles and your problems. So it makes it really hard for me to want to adhere to their ideology, which they need you to adhere to the whole thing. That's another problem with the blue pill, is that the blue pillars have a ideology, and a part of that ideology are all of these boxes that need to be checked. And if you check all the boxes and not one, then they label you some sort of bigot. Even if it's a reasonable box not to check, right? Like simply like it depends, because again, like I said, there's brackets of blue pillars. You have your liberals, then you have your further left people, and you know, these brackets get progressively more radical as you go further and further left. And I'm not anti-left, but it is a habit that they have that in order to adhere to any of these groups, you need to agree with all of these things. So if you were to say, if you need to adhere to all of these things. So, all right, I can't give an example without saying something that might get my channel banned, and like I'm a really like I'm literally just started this channel today, so you know, if they like cancel me, like that would be over. Like I would have no recourse. Like they're not gonna care about a small channel with no following. But the point is the blue pillars give terrible advice both to men and women. They have this fantasy of a mindset when it comes to dating. They tend to build their entire identity around politics, and in order to adhere to their overall look on life, you need to adhere to their politics and their social issues and every single one. So let's say you're pro LGBTQ, like I am very pro LGBTQ. But if there's one issue within the LGBTQ line of issues, if there's one where I'm like, I'm not sure about that one, I kind of disagree, it's immediately, you're a bigot now, you're a bigot now. And that makes it really hard to listen to them, because they refuse to let you be an individual. You have to adhere to every single belief they have in order to be a part of that community. And again, there's going to be differences between liberals and neoliberals and classical liberals, and then you got your socialists and your this and your that, right? And they all believe fairly different things. Within the groups of liberals, you're probably more likely to be able to get away with disagreeing on a topic that involves the LGBTQ. You might be able to get away with disagreeing on a topic that involves women. But once you start going further left, like social democracy is not that left. Technically, that's not leftist. That's still liberal. But you have some leeway. But once you get to socialist or further, there is no longer any leeway. It's like you either agree with everything or you're terrible. Unless you follow some specific political guru that has a different opinion, and their fan base might hold their opinion. But this is one thing that's strange about the blue pillars. The blue pill people are usually attached to the hip to their political ideology, whereas the red pillars have values and opinions that are more congruent with right-wing ideology, but they don't actually adhere to the right-wing ideology. So red pillars will have a lot of things like check marks that they'll check off that makes them very similar to a right-winger. But then they'll have a lot of things where they'll disagree with right-wingers. because, red pillars are usually about have as much sex as you possibly can with as many women as you possibly can, and Republicans, conservatives are usually like, don't do that. Find a woman, get married, have kids, sustain them, maintain them, blah blah blah. Ultimately, I don't really want to get into politics that much because it's such a it's just playing in the mud, and like it's such pointless. It's so pointless. Like, politics is important, but ugh. um so ultimately, final thoughts. Blue pillars tend to give bad advice, tend to not care that much about men's issues unless they're trying to persuade you into their ideology. For a blue pillar, if there's ever a moment where there's a woman versus a man, they will always choose the woman. If there's ever a moment where there is a LGBTQ person versus a straight man, they will always choose the LGBTQ person, regardless of the facts. Regardless of, and I'm being hyperbolic because, of course, there's gonna, like, if a gay guy shoots up a club and it was a straight man that got hit and they go to court, I doubt that they're gonna be able to demonize the straight guy in that situation. But from my experience, they would try very hard to find the way to do that. So, red pillars, toxic. Blue pillars, toxic. And I'm gonna save you an entire another video by just letting you know now, black pillars, toxic. So yeah, if your ideology has a pill and a color in it, it probably sucks. Peace out, y'all.